Billy the Kid sits slumped on a filthy straw mat, wrists pulled tight by iron cuffs already rubbing raw patches into his skin. Forget the classic movie jail. Lincoln County's lockup is just a sagging adobe box, nothing but thick bars, a battered wooden door, and a greasy stink that crawls into your clothes and doesn't leave. In one corner is what passes for dinner, a battered tin bowl filled with gray water and floating scraps, more metal than meat, the kind of stew you'd only eat if the alternative was eating your own boots. Billy stares at it, scratching absently at his shirt collar, trying not to think about how much more protein the lice are getting than he is. The prize in here isn't the food, or even the hope of freedom. It's that brief moment when the itching stops long enough for a single deep breath. Somewhere off to the side, a rat scurries across broken floorboards. Billy's eyes flick over to the bucket in the corner, the communal toilet, already half full and sour enough to burn your nose from across the room. If you want to see the real Old West, start here. Hunger so deep your hands shake, skin crawling with insects, and a smell thick enough to choke. Before the jailbreak, before the legend, Billy the Kid had to survive this. This isn't the part Hollywood wanted to film. Dinner wasn't a break. It was just another round of misery. The stew is so thin you can see the bottom of the bowl, and the bread is dense enough to use as a weapon. Every bite just reminds Billy how empty he really is. Cramped stomach, heavy limbs, and the thought of a real meal as far-fetched as a get-out-of-jail-free card. At night, sleep is a negotiation with the lice, a prayer not to roll too close to the bucket, and a constant battle with the rats who treat your ankles like a shortcut. The wool blanket scratches more than it warms, and the iron cuffs guarantee that comfort is never more than a cruel fantasy. And outside, the deputies aren't exactly running a tight ship. Some play cards, some nap, some wander off for hours at a time. Billy knows their routine by the shuffle of boots, but he also knows the truth. Nobody's coming in here to clean up the mess, much less treat a prisoner who gets sick from it. The only first aid is spit and whatever you can rip off your own shirt. Infection from the cuffs? That's just another part of the daily grind. After enough nights, the bars and chains don't even feel like punishment anymore. They're just the slow machinery of a death sentence. Even the food on evidence in this place tells you everything you need to know. Watery stew, bread that doubles as construction material, and water that's only a shade cleaner than what's in the bucket. Billy forces himself to eat anyway, knowing it's the only fuel he'll get before sunrise. He curls up on straw, so filthy it's practically alive, scratching at bites and sores, and tries to imagine what it would feel like not to itch or not to smell like rot. The only thing worse than the filth is how normal it becomes. 4 panels could sum up the standard issue bed here. A scratchy blanket, iron cuffs biting deep, lice on every surface, and a face twisted by another sleepless night. Meanwhile, out beyond the bars, deputies smoke, gamble, and occasionally pretend to check on the prisoners. You get the feeling the rats are doing a better job of keeping track of the inmates. After weeks of this, the misery seeps into your bones. Billy crouches by the bars, tracking the shift change by the shuffle of boots and the rats darting through the straw, knowing the only escape is through his own wits, or not at all. There's no real medicine, just spit on a rag and a torn shirt bandage wrapped around a festering wrist. Any wound is a risk. Every itch could be an infection, and every day makes it harder to remember what feeling healthy is even like. After a while, the toll starts to show. swollen wrists from the cuffs, bug bites up and down his arms and legs, and eyes so hollow he barely looks alive. Even after Billy pulls off his famous jailbreak, shooting his way out, hands still raw and bleeding, he's not bursting onto the balcony as some dashing outlaw. He's barely more than a ghost, thin, filthy, and dragging the stink of that cell with him into the daylight. The legend leaves out a lot. Jail for Billy the Kid wasn't a pause in the story. It was a slow, grinding torture that left scars deeper than any bullet. The next time you hear about his great escape, think about what he was actually running from. Survival in that cell was its own kind of gunfight. How many of us would have lasted a single night? Let me know below what other outlaw realities do you want, stripped bare. The Old West was packed with legends, but scratch the surface and you find sweat, gunpowder, and old blood. Turns out, the real story doesn't smell much like Hollywood.